Hi, and welcome to Curious Conversations, the podcast where curiosity meets connection. Thanks for joining as we discuss captivating stories and ideas and engage in thought-provoking conversations with experts, enthusiasts, and everyday people. We hope to ignite a curious spirit as we embark on a quest for understanding, one curious conversation at a time. So let's jump in this together. Welcome to the world of Curious Conversations. Hello, and welcome to Curious Conversations. We are your hosts, Carly and Mandy, and today we are doing something a little different that we hope you will love as much as we do.
That's right. So we're introducing a new series of episodes that will be scattered among our regulars, and it's called Three Picks. We will pull a topic out of a hat and discuss our top three in that category. That doesn't have to mean like our top, like our favorite, just three that stand out in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, it could literally be maybe our three picks of a scary movie or our top three serial killers. You never know what we're going to come up with.
Yeah, you made that sound so fun. Top three serial killers. Okay, so this week we are talking about books.
Yeah. And I am really excited about this one. I just feel like this is a great place for us to start. We're going to discuss not our three favorite books. We're going to discuss three books that they're on our radar for completely different reasons. But we're going to tell you why we love them so much. Before we dive in, we want to share with you this week's Curious Dish. So this is the part of our show where we dish about the most curious thing we've seen this week. Mandy, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so we had mentioned this on a previous episode about sort of a play day we had where we just kind of went to some different places in the rain, actually, and still had a good time.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, like a little adventure day. And one of those was a statuary, was one of the places we went to, and it was like an abandoned statuary. And so we've got to post some pictures of that because that was really cool. The same day we went to a cemetery, and we did post some pictures from that. Anyway, we've got so many things going on. We've got to share some images with you guys, but so I revisited that place that we went to when it was abandoned. It's actually open now to sell these items, and they've been there a bit. So this statuary, as you saw, was like what I'd call seasoned. You know, all the pieces were like, you know what I mean? They had that aged look.
Yes.
Yeah. So I went back there and got a few things, and I'm gonna go back with a truck and get something bigger. But I'll tell you, the cool thing about it all was just how that place was abandoned. There was so much stuff just out there growing up around it and all. But when you really get past the gate that we didn't get inside the other side of it, there's a lot. And so we wanted a lot of different things, and we saw some really neat things. Me and our 13-year-old went. So, but what we walked away with was I got two little feet. They're little, just little concrete feet, but they are kind of a reddish tone, and they look like some sort of maybe monster feet.
Oh,
Yeah, they're just little small feet.
okay. I didn't see those when we went.
Yeah, it's in the other side. You've got to check out the other side. So those were different. And then so we also one of the items that my son got was really weird. So they had the religious statues. They had Jesus and Mary, and then they had some saints. So he got one of the Jesus statues, and it's the one with like the heart, the the heart. I don't know, what is that called? That's it's a thing. This is a Sacred Heart. That's I'm gonna mess it up.
It sounds good.
Yeah, it is good. It's really cool. Anyway, he got that one, and then he got one. Get this, it's a saint, and its face is put on upside down.
Wait.
Something messed up, but we can't figure it out because those are a
Oh.
mold. It's like a even the guy running the place, he said that's a single mold. I don't know why the face is upside down.
Oh.
Yep.
I mean, that has the potential to be creepy.
Yeah, so he gave me a little bit off on the money and said if something bad happens to us, he's not responsible.
My gosh. I would have paid extra for the messed up one, but okay
No,
if you got a discount.
I know he was excited about that because it looked really cool anyway. And then when we got up close, we were like, "Wait, what's going on with the face?" And it's literally just upside down, not the head, just the features, like the facial features. So yeah, that's the most curious I've seen is the upside down face saint. Don't know what we might get from that, but it's going out here in the little flower garden.
All right, I love it. So I'm going tomorrow and
Yay!
I might have to get a saint or some feet or something. I'm coming home with something.
I left you 1 foot. It's on the drive as you come in. There's a
All right.
foot. There's a foot for you.
Well, the most curious thing I've seen this week is probably boring to some, but I just thought it was fantastic. We're kind of food snobs around our house, and just like certain things. People have the right to like their certain things. Well, there are only certain brands of eggs that we'll buy, and stuff. So we usually spend a little bit of extra money on our eggs because we want our certain eggs. Well, we ended up trying a new brand and I liked it. I like carton it came in. They were pasture raised, just like all that stuff. We like vegetarian fed, all that. So we get this carton of eggs and I get it home and um, open it up. And there is a little tiny chicken magazine inside of it.
Oh my
They,
God. I was holding my breath. There's a little tiny chicken. I'm like, oh, this is what I've always been worried about.
I
This is what.
wish.
Are you serious? A little magazine?
Oh, and it's like it was written by chickens. It's like
What?
telling you what's happening on the farm.
Now I'm
It's
wondering
like
how much you spent on eggs.
a good 8 or $9, which isn't terrible, terrible. You have to pay a little bit more for things that are organic or whatnot. So it wasn't terrible. Um, totally worth it. I kind of want to just keep buying this brand simply because I need to keep up with the chickens on the farm and see what they're up to.
Oh. Oh my
It was
gosh. I
really
love that.
It was really cool. I saved it for you. So
Oh,
you
that
can
is
read
so
my chicken
much.
magazine.
It is so much fun. So, yeah, I'm really picky about the eggs. In a tot, I will settle for just the plain old white, you know, styrofoam, whatever it is, mess. That's not,
Yes.
those eggs are just, they're kind of pale and they just don't hold me. An hour later, I'm thinking, what happened to the eggs inside of my stomach? Um,
Yeah.
I like good hearty eggs that come out bright orange and
Yes.
I want a rich color. So yeah, I'm picky about the eggs too. But I didn't know where you were going with that, but I think that's adorable.
Oh, it was so great. Just the cutest thing ever.
Fun. Well, I love fun marketing.
I know. Look, we're on it. We need
Yeah.
sponsors. We're so good.
Yes,
Sponsorship.
we really are. I mean, I think, pay up is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, well, today we are sharing about books for three different categories. So the first category that we selected was, a book we love. It's a go-to, a reread, something we can't, just it's not a one-timer. It's something we've got at least one copy of on our bookshelf or just our favorite. The second category we went with was something that was not what we expected it to be. um, you know, you judge a book by its cover, or you judge a book by its title, or, just something you pick up thinking it's one thing, or, maybe it elicits some type of emotion you didn't expect, whatnot. So that's category two. And then the third, we went with a book that has been impactful. It's changed our lives or impacted our lives in some way. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can't go forward though without mentioning that we're both writers.
Yeah. I think that's really important to mention. And I think
Yes.
that's why this kind of popped up as our first, our first three picks.
Yep, no kidding. So, you think about how not only do we write, we've led writers groups, been in critique groups, and so that whole world is just really familiar. And I think maybe it gives us one up on discussing it. What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel qualified for this one.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, let's both just do a little quick share. Do you want to talk about what you're doing, what you're up to, what you have done?
Yeah, I think that's great. I published my first book in 2014. It was just a little book about motherhood. I had a kiddo. I wrote it when she was born in 1999. And so it was, I pulled it out, after moving, and submitted it, and it was published, and it was really fun. The process was fun. It was a learning process for sure, the publishing industry, and figuring out how do you sell them once you've got them published. All of that was fun, but the writing is what I really craved. And so, um, I then started writing in every genre that I could. I wanted to kind of just practice and really test out, okay, what can I write in? So I've done a little bit with poetry, not a whole lot, but a little bit, and I enjoy that. But more so in the old school rhymey way. That's pretty much, children's books, and I do write a lot of children's books. But I've published a devotional for a South Africa missions group. And then I published a little middle grade fiction book about a girl that has kind of low self-esteem and goes off to camp, and some of the things that she learns and how she grows from that. And right now I'm working on a book about a daughter taking care of a mother with Alzheimer's.
So I like your style of writing because it makes me feel comfortable and it's relatable. And I can just, there's no trip up when I'm reading. You know how you're reading something and it's not your voice. You don't hear your voice in any of it. It's somebody's style and you just can't, the material may be great, but you can't get that rhythm going. And so when
Yeah.
I read your stuff, like it just always feels very comfortable. And I really enjoy your style of writing. And your book you were just talking about, I read that with my middle school age son, and we enjoyed that together. Like I like to read out loud. And we
Yeah.
enjoyed that together. And it's just your writing is really clean. Like I feel like I have to do a lot of go back because I'm just getting down the raw emotions. But you're one of the few people I know that just writes clean from the get go, and that's a gift. I don't have that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I like realistic fiction. That's what I read, and so I find that's what I write a lot of. And I do tend to kind of have a heart for children's books, the middle grade, and so I find myself over there writing for that age group a whole lot, and just trying to stay on the level of the reader. I do want it to feel comfortable, and so I just try to write it like it's a conversation, which is absolutely what you have done in every book you've written. I feel like I'm sitting on a front porch listening to you talk.
Yeah, you can kind of. I've had people tell me, I can hear, if they know me, I can hear your voice in that. Like I can hear, that's what
Uh,
Mandy would say.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, so we have that in common with our writing. Although our writing style is very different and the subject matter might be different, we both like that. Let me tell you a story, because
Yep,
it goes back to the original storytelling. That's what I love about writing.
absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Well, so
Yeah,
it
so
was
tell us
about
about your books.
Yeah, it was about what 8 to 9 years ago when I was looking for a critique group and found you. And so it was just like it's so weird now to think back how much we've been through since then and how that friendship started. But I was looking at getting more serious about writing. I had just sort of been writing for myself. I'm like you. I like poetry. I did some of that in high school, early 20s, and that was kind of my thing. And it was almost like journaling, for me, getting out the emotions and all. But when I was starting to think about actually maybe publishing something one day, so I come across this. I think it was like an ad in the paper. I mean, it's been that far back. I saw that and I was like, okay, I'm going to take a chance and I'm going to join a critique group. And that was your group. And then I joined your writers group and it grew from there. So I've got to give you a lot of I've got well, I owe you a lot for a lot of different things. So we'll just be kind of
Ah,
cheesy right now. But I do because you pulled me into that world and you showed me a lot of things. And that's really what was a support for me in getting started. And so I had this long ongoing book that was just taking forever. Now I'm about ready to release that thing finally.
woo.
Yeah, which is called Spiderflies. But back in the day, it was a chapter in a larger, different book. And I thought, this is my goal. And it just became this daunting task to deal with. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take a smaller chapter and I'm just going to see what I do with it. And that led to the Trace books, which is my spooky 80s books. And they're short, like quick, easy reads. They get a little bit longer as you go, but they're bite size. And that was what was doable for me. That's what I really felt like I could take a step in. And I've got three more of those. I've got three out and got three more planned. And so that's kind of been my baby. But then I did come out with A Fair in August, which is sort of a Southern thriller. And, um, you know, I'm just, I'm ready to get back to writing some more because every time I talk about it with somebody like this, I'm like, gosh, I should be writing every day. Do you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, there's so much to publishing a book. It's not, you're not just sitting around writing all of the time. You've got so much invested in the publishing process, the marketing, you're constantly pushing. And then you and I are have a heart for other writers, and there's a lot of support that goes into that. And sometimes you end up putting your writing on the back burner for those things. And it's not long before your heart starts longing, like, hello, you're a
Yeah.
writer.
Yeah, when you have that desire to produce something creative, even if it's just like in a closet for yourself, because that's how I was writing for a really long time, the need to get the words out and the feeling out, and see that develop into something, that'll keep tapping you on the shoulder till you do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, well, let's talk about some other people's books now. I'm anxious to, I think I know what you're going to say, but I'm not quite sure. I don't know if
Really?
you want to, yeah, maybe, I don't know. We talk about writing a lot more than we talk about which books are our favorite books. So, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll go. I'll go. Yep. Okay. Like, you probably do know mine
Okay.
100%. Actually, I think
Okay.
we talked about it before. So my all-time favorite book is actually As I Lay Dying.
Okay.
Um,
I knew it. That's what I was thinking. Yep.
So if you've not read William Faulkner, folks, go read William Faulkner. He's brilliant writer, and I actually got to go to the William Faulkner house when I went to New Orleans, and that was just it was, I don't know, just awesome. It was amazing. I like that book. It's not like anything else that I just pick up and read. Um, on a normal basis. I read, a lot of mysteries. I read mostly nonfiction, but if I'm going to read fiction, it's going to be a mystery or something that is very something realistic and usually not funny in any way. But As I Lay Dying is hyper realistic literature, and it is. There's some comedy to it, but it's dark. It's dark comedy. I like it because I feel like Faulkner took very heavy situations and added that comedy relief to it. That, well, let's look at this in a lighter way. And it makes you realize that maybe we take some things a little too serious. And his characters, I think, are what sell that storyline. And I'm really big on characters and character development. I don't do it really well, But I like to talk about it because it's so important. You have to fall in love with someone's character before you can fall in love with their storyline, and I feel like he does that really well. Um, and I think the only other thing I would have to say about As I Lay Dying is, it's not just the story. If you pick it up and you start reading it, you think, well, these are the most southern, uneducated people I've ever met. But if you go back through it, the psychological changes that are made within the minds and the hearts of the characters, you can go afterwards and have such great discussion with people who have read and love the book. And it's, I would say, equivalent to any self-help book that you can read. You can pull so much from watching how they work through their circumstances. So I just think it's a beautiful book.
So I remember you telling me that a long time back, and I was like, okay, that's one I know of. I never read. I'm going to give this a try. This is Carly's favorite book, and I was excited, and so I liked the subject matter. And I think when you're talking about this, like there's a book you pick up, or there's a book like you read a lot into. Um, I like to write and read into things a lot. Like that's the way I like to read and write. When I'm writing something, I want somebody to probably read too much into it. Like, oh no, why did they do this? And oh wait, that's because of this. And is there something hidden here? Because I like all those little hidden things. To me, that book has a lot of stuff that you can read into it as much as you want to. And it's a richer read, I guess, in that way. What I struggled with was dialect. Like my voice didn't want to match up. And I'm like feeling a little bit dumb when I was reading. I was like, just make it work. Make it come out of your mouth, man.
Uh, Watch the movie and it's even worse.
But that kept tripping me up. And I'm like, I had to get I call it me and my mom when we like British comedy, like humor and stuff, and I'll put it on our British ear because it's like you gotta like tune in a little bit better. Like there it is. There it
Yes,
is.
I
Yeah.
totally get that. I
Yes.
totally
And
get
then
that.
once you've got, oh, you know what it's like? Also, those 3D kind of pictures where you're supposed to just let your eyes just kind of wander and then it becomes 3D to you?
Yes.
Yes. It's kind of like that. Once you've got it, you've got it. But, you lose it, it's gone. So I had to get that ear on in reading, but it was not like anything else I've read. It's very interesting. Very, morbid subject matter. And
Yep.
yet like a lot of very true to life type things too. I thought it was interesting.
It
Yeah.
is interesting. It's definitely not, a book that you would pick up and read on the beach, a cozy beach read. It's definitely more of a, what have I gotten myself into? And then when you get to the end, you think, oh, there's a whole lot in there. Hold. So,
Yeah, I could see that that's the top that you read it another time and you get a little bit of something different.
absolutely.
Um yeah, and that's so along with that, true to life kind of stuff.
Yep.
That's why it's
Absolutely.
appealing, like human nature.
Yep. What about you? What is your top?
Okay. So my very, very top is Shadowland by Peter Straub.
Okay.
So have you ever read any Peter Straub? You
I
know,
have not.
Okay, so he's horror, but it's a very different kind of horror to me. It's an unnerving kind of feel in his books. It's so he like even co-wrote with Stephen King, but it's different. That's a good combo, but it's not it's more like a mental type thing, gets inside your head a little bit. I'll tell you all the way back to when I was a kid. I remember my mom read a lot of the really thick books that I was just, in awe of as a little kid.
Right.
And she liked Stephen King and she'd have something that, looked bigger than the Bible. And I'm like, how do you just sit down at breakfast and thumbing through that thing? But
Mhm.
she would get lost in those books. So there was one though that on the shelf, which was Shadowland. And in the cover of the old paperback one, it's got this raised, like the textured lettering on it. And it looked almost like trees coming up in the letters. And it just stood out to me as like a kid of 7 or 8. I'm like, what is that? just visually it stood out to me. So when I was a teenager, I read that for the first time, and it's about magic, but not like fantasy. It's
Okay.
about like almost kind of like dark magic or like innate magic, and the ways that people are, whether they're good or evil, and the things that they can kind of put out. But what was interesting to me was there's a lot of different angles from this in this book, and I pulled things from this book along the way. Is one of the reasons why it means a lot to me. And then I still like to read out loud a lot. And so at the time, somebody who's really important in my life, we were reading that out loud. So it made an impact, and they're not here anymore. So, we had that connection with that story. But this story pops up in when I talked about Spider Flies, my book that's should be coming out soon. Hope, hope. I'm ready to move forward with that. But in that, there's a reference, like a blatant reference to this. And in fact, I'm not even sure how much I can get away with in saying, but I'm gonna I talk about that in there. And there's some subtle references if people knew the book. Then also, we've talked before about I have a little side project called The Collector. Well, the collector is a character in that book. And yeah, and so that's where that came from. Was years ago I thought I'm going to write a book called The Collector, and it's going to be about the stories that I've collected. And it changed, what I was going to do. But so both of those things that are big things to me are from that book. It's like references to that book.
I love that. I'm going to read it. I don't read a lot of horror, but I think I would enjoy that. I don't, if I want to watch I'll say not really a horror film, even more of like a psychological thriller is what I would watch over, say, a slasher film or, you know, so I think I would love it.
Yeah, there's none of that. I can't even do it justice by saying it's magic because that sounds off-putting to me, to be honest. I'm not a big fantasy type person, but
Sure.
it's like um it does get in your head. And I think you might like it. I don't know, but it's definitely more realistic than what I'm making it sound like. It's and it takes a lot of different angles, and it's like an adult fairy tale.
Yes. Okay.
Like the old fairy tale, and there's the references to that, like the Little Red Riding Hood. It even starts with that. So I'll I'll leave you with that.
All right. I like it. I like it.
Well,
And you started a book based on fairy tales. Is that still
I
a thing?
did. It's still a thing sitting there in the computer.
Uh-huh. I have
you know,
several of those.
right? It's there for the future. But yeah, it's definitely one that I got excited and started, but it's not the right time right now. So it's
Got it.
coming.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's coming, right? On down the
Yeah.
way.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, so our next category, I had a lot of fun with this one, and we may have the same answer for this one. Something that you were not expecting, or something that was just different from what you thought it was. Tell me what yours is because I may have the same.
Are you kidding me? Do you know how
Oh,
weird that would be if we both had the same? Okay,
oh,
mine is Into the Wild.
oh, okay. Nope. Oh, that's a good
Okay.
one now.
Yeah. So Into the Wild by John, and I always feel like I'm messing his name up. It's Krakauer, and it sounds like crack hour.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Um, yeah. So that and I'm people are gonna throw mud in my face and boo me when I say this, but everybody that's all about writing and reading always says the book's better. Well, Mandy didn't read the book first. I saw the movie years ago, which I thought was done so well by Sean Penn. And the acting was good. The way it was done was good. I loved it. It was sort of a I don't know, like a memoir meets I'm all about that looking back, that wistfulness and all that. And you were getting these pieces, and I felt like it allowed you to put it together yourself, what you thought his home life was like and why he was going out and all these things. And so I finally decide with a teenage son, I'm like, we need to read Into the Wild. This is important. So we start to read it, and it tells what's the ending in the movie in the beginning. So you find out, what happens to this guy right off the bat. And I was not expecting that. So
Oh no.
yeah, so in the movie it's played out where you're like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? He's on this journey and but you don't know exactly what's gonna happen. And it does the opposite in the book. And so I put it down and he was like, well, I don't want it now. And I said, well, I don't want it now. We already know. There's no anyway, I didn't even finish it because I was let down. And that doesn't usually
Oh.
happen that way, but it kind of made me mad.
So I've seen the movie. I've not
Okay.
read it. So I'm kind of
Okay.
glad I did it in that order then.
Oh my gosh. Well, you won't even, I mean, I don't know. I guess the fact that here I had already told my son, I thought he was going to get to see like all the things that were happening and wondering, is he going to make it and all? But then he knew right off that he was not going to make it. So now I couldn't even show him the movie to get excited about
Right.
because anyway, that people can boo me. I was disappointed. So I don't know.
Yeah, that the storyline was phenomenal and the movie was well written. I can't speak for the book, but it definitely elicits emotion. There's definitely that feeling where if you could just reverse time and tell somebody something to change, the future for them, there was definitely that moment of, gosh, just one decision that you make can be life-changing, life-ending,
Yeah.
but, he was on a journey, and I absolutely respect when sometimes you pick up and you make a massive change and you're on a journey of self-discovery and yeah, incredible storyline.
Oh yeah, I felt I related to a lot in that, and I thought the journey was the story. And so when you get into the book and like right off, you don't get the journey. I'm like, give me that journey. That's what I'm here for.
I I'm very surprised that it was done that way.
Yeah, see, that would have
That
made your list too. But what did actually make it for you, or not make it in this case?
okay, so mine was, Jeanette McCurdy's new book, and that's something that you actually recommended that I read. The title is "I'm Glad My Mom Died." That was not I was expecting a lot of mom bashing, and I thought, "Well, that's gonna be kinda hard to listen to," and that's not what it was at all.
Right.
Um, I think the title was a little clickbaity. It was
Yep.
like, "Oh, well, that was an attention grabber for sure." But you find out that she actually had a lot of love and respect for her mother. And, a love and respect for her mother drove her a little crazy at times even, but it was there, and there is not a lot of mom bashing. So I was really glad to read that. There's some dark humor again. Apparently, that's like an ongoing theme with me, but it is humorous. And I just want to note that she reads her own audiobook, which I thought was a fantastic choice because she speaks like nobody else. She just has
Right.
this tone that's like, "Here's what I'm saying, take it or leave it. I don't care." I
Yeah.
thought I thought that was really great. I like books that are read by their own author, for the most part. So probably could be really bad, but um, what I liked about the book though was it really does display the effects that a mother can have on her children, especially, a daughter. Um, and you could see the schizophrenia, you could see the narcissism. I think there was some personality disorder stuff going on there, and you can see all of that throughout the entire story. Um, but you also see that she absolutely thought she was doing right by her daughter. It wasn't hateful. It wasn't, she wasn't being malicious. It was her trying to do what she thought was best. Did you
Yeah,
feel that?
she seemed to have, even when the things were so sadistic, she seemed to have it in her head a certain way. And that's the thing. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't say any mom bashing, and that title does just get you like, oh wow. And I wanted to see, okay, why does she hate her mom so much? But really my takeaway was her mom broke her heart.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a lot.
Yeah. And I think for me, it was just kind of eye-opening. It was, I have 3 daughters, and you do have to be careful, when you're speaking to and not just daughters, sons too. There are emotions involved and, you've got what you have to take care of as your responsibility as a parent, but also there's the emotional side of it and trying to make sure that, everything you speak is in love and kindness and encouragement. But, I think so often we parent blame. I am this way because my mom, blah, 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 or I'm this way because my dad, and I think that can be very dangerous to your own recovery. Sometimes we've got to look and take some responsibility and say, okay, yes, we are shaped by our relationship with our parents. If you go see a psychologist, that's probably one of the first things you're going to talk about is your relationship with your parents.
Yep.
But at the same time, just to be able to say, this is what I went through. And then I was responsible for my own journey. And I felt like Jeanette did that really well.
She did. Yeah. And she brought, I don't know, I don't want to say lightness to a heavy subject, but she brought her personality and her way to it that made me want to keep hearing it. It was just
Yeah.
like somebody you like to listen to. And I didn't even know I would like hearing her that much, because she is just sort of, she has a voice like, I'm just over it. That's what her voice sounds like. I am over it.
Uh-huh.
But it's the way that she went through all the things. And you can even see in the beginning, she's portraying it like she didn't have that voice, which I thought was interesting. You see that voice come in after a while where you're just kind of done. And that tells something about her. But it made it, that personal aspect of her reading it made it very interesting and kind of fun, if I can use that word, fun. It, like, I wanted to hear it. I was like, oh, let's put this in. I want to listen to this in the car.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And her audiobook has, short chapters, so it's easy
Yes.
to consume if you like to listen to audiobooks.
Yep. I liked that. Oh my gosh. So we're down to our last one. So, and this is, I really enjoyed this. I just want to
Yeah,
keep talking books.
I know.
Oh my gosh. So this last one is a book that changed our lives, that had an impact on us in some profound way. So I don't know what that is for you. Which one is that for you?
This was tough. This was really tough for me. There are so many books that I've read that have changed aspects of my life. A lot of books about my faith. I could say, absolutely 100% they changed some area of my life or, the way I viewed my faith or, biographies, especially ones by writers who have overcome things or have worked to better themselves in some way. And I've got a shadow work journal upstairs right now that I probably need to pull back out. That kind of helps you to work through shadows from your past. We all have shadows from childhood, but experiences we've been through when we try to pull those through life with us, and sometimes you got to work through them and let them go. And so I'm thinking through all of these books that have had some kind of an impact, and I landed on the final one, which is Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Okay. Tell me.
Um, yeah, so it's a 1955 book by Crockett Johnson, and I was not alive in 1955, but um, I read that as a child. It's about a young boy with an incredible imagination and a purple crayon that he goes through and he colors the world. Um, with what he wants to see. So, he leaves home at night with his purple crayon and there's no moon in the sky. It's a moonless night. So he just draws one and now there is one. And it shows him kind of going on a little journey. And there's a lot of spin-off books, with Harold too. So it's a great little series to get into. But, you know, for me, it was definitely more about the meaning behind the book. I say that meaning the book did inspire me um, to it inspired my love for reading and my love for writing. So I wrote my own little book about, some crayons that are just rebellious and kind of go crazy. And I do think that came from Harold and the Purple Crayon. But it kind of represents my childhood and how that has shaped who I am. So I grew up in a little town, teeny tiny town called Frostproof, Florida, and they've got a library there called Lat Maxi Memorial Library. Um, and I spent so much time there. And I have incredibly fond memories of time spent there. My mom checking out as many books as we possibly could. There was like a limit. And I mean, I would go in and pull 20 or 30, whatever the limit was. That's how many books I wanted to take home. I loved to read. I loved to be read to, and my mom would read to me. My grandmother's, was really big on reading and storytelling. I'd go through the summer reading programs at the library. But, Harold and the Purple Crayon represents an era of my life of storytelling, nursery rhymes, rhyming, just kind of an obsession with written and spoken word. And I feel like that's made me who I am today. And I write a lot about that, that journey and how that just shaped how I feel about the writing world. So long story, but I have a love for writing, and I have a passion and a desire to support other writers. And I love stories and how they connect us as humans. And I think that has sparked something inside of me that is fulfilled with curious conversations. There's storytelling and talking through experiences with other people. There's just something magical about that.
So yeah, that one's a surprise to me. I didn't know what you were going to say, and I'll tell you what I love about children's books and early like fables and you know, fairy tales and all that is it's the first stuff we heard. It's the first stories and in our minds, the imagination and whether it's it sparked that creative spirit in you to read or write or just fantasize about how life could be or what you wanted and all these things. All those stories are so important. And you take some of these, like that one, and you look at like what does that mean on a deeper level. And like I'm a sucker for metaphors and foreshadowing and these kind of things. So even when you take them at their base level, and you pull from that, like I'm notorious for reading more into something than maybe even somebody meant for me to, but
Right.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And I could definitely talk about fairy tales for a bit because that's some of my favorite stories. I had it in my mind a certain way, and Disney came along and did what they did, and some of that's fun, but that I don't know, just kind of that raw story that you were told as a kid and the way you took it personally, and nobody had their stamp on that. It was just passed on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
100%, I understand.
this was hard for me because I thought of several different things, and I'm like, well, which aspect of me am I saying that it was impactful for? And I actually thought of a children's book first, and then I thought of a fairy tale that I really, really like, and I thought about the self-help books I've read, and I thought, well, you're going to be telling them exactly who you are if you start naming these off. So I decided to hold back there. Wasn't really ready to share, but I
I
think
always I always look at someone's bookshelf when I go to visit their home because you can tell a lot about a person by the books on their shelf.
so. I used to have all of ours out in the open. They're literally there's a shelf made into the bottom part of my desk. That's where all the books are. So I don't mind sharing. I really don't. But it's just funny that you said that. They're literally beneath my knees right now. So you could walk through all our house and you probably wouldn't even spot those. I'd share those with you though, of course.
Yes, yes.
Well, it came down for me, I guess, The Catcher in the Rye, which J.D. Salinger. And I don't know if you've ever read that. Some schools make you read it. I understand. I
Mhm.
didn't. I think my brother had to read it or something, but um, I came across that knowing of it, but never read it. My early 20s, I read it with my mom. Actually, we used to do that where you read back and forth to out loud as an
Yes.
when I was older. She read to me when I was little, but so now my son and I we do that. But we read that one aloud, and of course I've read it since then, and it's just chock full of cussing. So when you're like to read out loud, it's kind of like, oh, um, the language in that is so just like you're talking. And I think that was my influence because I do like to write like that. Like you said, let me tell you a story and just start telling the story. Something that's interesting. Here we are, something that's curious. Just, and the character in the story is doing that through the whole thing. It's just him talking and sharing and going over. And it was a style that I think people would either love it or hate it. I had never read anything like that. Everything that I had read before then was so formatted and just very, I don't know, almost like it was created in someone else's image at times to hit all the marks of something. This really was at times even like somebody rambling. And
Yeah.
I thought, I really get this though. I like this. And then it's got such a deeper meaning and such a deeper subject matter as you go along. You're like, oh, I could have almost missed this. I thought we were way up here just chatting. And it's like the guy has some stuff. And so I can appreciate that. I've known people who they are living on one level and there's like a whole iceberg under that, and you think they're just talking and then you catch that glimpse. And that story to me showing that like you flipped, like you turned the skin inside out and saw what was going on inside. It was very emotional read
Mm.
in that way, but most of it is a very like easy and light read. So I just like the contradiction. I love that story.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And gosh, for it to be a required reading in school with the language,
I know. Yeah.
I would have raised my hand to read out loud just to be that person.
What are you going to do about it? You said, read
That's
it.
right. Gosh, this has been fun. I loved this episode. I think I'm really going to enjoy the 3 picks series. So definitely um come back and check us out and see what we come up with next. If you have a good idea of something you want us to pick our 3 favorites on or do a 3 picks for, we'd love to hear it. But also, if you have a favorite book or we want to know why you read what you read, give us a peek into your home and on your bookshelf. Tell us what you loved and why you love it. Drop us an email. And be sure to join us again next week because we'll be here with a brand new episode.
Well, listen, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, where we post exclusive content, contests, and so much more. And of course, you can keep up with our episodes through Podbean or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And as always, if you have a story that sparks curiosity or you have something that you want us to talk about, just shoot us an email to ourcuriouspodcast@gmail.com. We'll see you next time.